Okay, get ready for this. We are about to connect the dots between a Jamaican folk recipe, an ancient biblical covenant, and, believe it or not, one of the darkest crimes on our modern world. This is a hidden story, and it's all about power, the body, and the very nature of the soul. So let's start with a big question. Can a meal actually bind a person's soul? I know, it sounds like something straight out of a fantasy novel, right? But what if I told you that these kinds of rituals of binding people through what they eat, are woven deep, deep into human history?
For example, in Jamaica, there's a folk practice called tying. The idea is that a woman can cook a very specific meal, we're talking stew peas and rice, to spiritually bind a man to her. And the goal here is total control, his devotion, his fidelity, and, this is crucial, his commitment to having children and building a family with.
Now, it's easy to write this off as just a local superstition, but what if it's more than that? What if this tradition is actually an echo, a kind of cultural memory of a powerful ritual language that is thousands of years old?
To figure this out, to really find the source code for a practice like this, we have to go way back. We're looking for an ancient covenant's echo. This is where we start to find the biblical blueprint for the whole thing. So our first stop is the Book of Genesis, chapter 15. This is where God makes this incredibly serious binding promise to Abraham. And the way he does it is super specific, and it should start to sound, well, a little familiar.
Just look at the parallels here. It's kind of wild. On one side, you have the Jamaican stew. Its whole purpose is to bind a partner to create a family. On the other, the Genesis covenant, which binds God to Abraham to create an entire nation. Both rituals use multiple types of animal flesh, and both are fundamentally about the same thing, ensuring offspring, ensuring a future. It is the exact same ritual logic, just playing out in two totally different worlds.
So what we're seeing here is a shared, let's call it a ritual grammar. You've got the multiple kinds of animals. You have this idea of divided bodies representing what's at stake. You have a binding promise, and it's all aimed at the explicit goal of having children. This isn't just a coincidence. This is a pattern.
So that begs a really important question, right? What gives these rituals their power? What gives them their teeth? What is the ultimate spiritual threat that makes sure nobody breaks the deal?
Well, the power comes from the penalty. For these ancient covenants, the unspoken threat, the thing that hung in the air if you broke your promise, was basically, may I become just like these divided animals, bodily dismemberment. But why was that the ultimate threat?
To get that, you have to kind of step into an ancient worldview where a physical body is the single most valuable thing a spirit can possibly have. A body gives you agency, it gives you a presence, it lets you actually do things in the world. From this point of view, spirits without bodies are just desperate to get.
So let's just break down the logic here. Step 1, a body is a spirit's #1 most prized possession. Step 2, any binding ritual needs a really powerful consequence to make it stick. So, step 3, the ultimate, absolute worst threat you can make is the total destruction of that most prized asset, the dismemberment of the body.
Now, this ancient logic of binding and bodily threat, this is where things get really interesting, because it finds its most radical expression and its complete inversion in a very different kind of ritual meal.
We're talking about the Christian Eucharist or communion, and what's so fascinating is that it uses the exact same ancient ritual language we've been tracking, but it turns the whole logic of power and control completely upside down.
So when Jesus says, "This is my body, given for you," and then he calls the cup a new covenant, he is speaking directly into this ancient sacrificial tradition. He is intentionally tapping into the grammar of a binding ritual that everyone there would have understood.
But the difference is just profound. Folk binding rituals, like the one we started with, are all about controlling someone else through threats, through coercion, and the result is captivity. The Eucharist is about communion with another through a voluntary self-sacrifice, and its goal is freedom and unity. It's a binding ritual that actually sets you free instead of enslaving you.
And this whole framework of bodies and spirits and consumption, it gives us a really chilling new way to look at a modern-day horror, the trafficking in human souls. In the Book of Revelation, the great evil empire of Babylon is condemned for a lot of things. But its list of merchandise, the stuff it trades in, ends with these two really haunting items: slaves and souls of men. What on earth does it mean to trade in the souls of men?
The key is in the original Greek.
psyche anthropon. Now, this doesn't mean what we might think, like some wispy, immaterial spirit. It actually reflects the ancient Hebrew idea that a human is a living soul. You are an animated body. So to trade in souls means you're trading in whole embodied people.
And this leads us to a really stark conclusion. The ancient crime of trading in the souls of men is the absolute commodification of human beings. And in our modern language, there's a very clear name for that: human trafficking. It's not just a crime, it's a cosmic economic sin.
So when you look at it through this lens, the global economy of human trafficking becomes a kind of dark ritual. It's this monstrous system that literally consumes bodies, treating human life like a product to be bought, sold, and then just thrown away. It is a perverse, massive, large-scale ritual of consumption without any communion. All of this leaves us with a very clear, very stark choice between two completely opposing systems. It's a choice between consumption or communion.
So look at the two sides. On one hand, you've got Babylon's economy. Its currency, human bodies, treated like things, like commodities. Its ritual is consumption and discard, and the result? Trafficked souls. But on the other hand, you have Christ's covenant. Its currency is his own body, offered freely as a gift. Its ritual is communion and unity, and the result is redeemed souls.
So, isn't that something? What started with a simple stew has led us all the way here. We've seen how Jamaican folk magic, ancient covenants, the Eucharist, and yes, even the modern horror of human trafficking are all, in their own way, speaking the same deep ritual language of binding, of bodies, and of consumption.
And all of that leaves us with one last big question to think about. This ancient logic seems to suggest that we are always binding ourselves to something through what we consume, whether it's a meal, a product we buy, or an idea we take in. So the real question isn't if we bind ourselves, it's to whom and for what ultimate purpose.